This is a wonderful wild rice pilaf. If you'd like to learn how to make this wonderful rice dish on yours, go ahead, watch this film, and you are going to find out the best tasting wild rice pilaf that you have ever had in your life. Right there. Well, hello! Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're going to be making a wild rice pilaf. This is a wonderful accompaniment to almost any meal. It's great with a steak and a potato or some green vegetables, maybe carrots with it. Either way, it's just a wonderful side dish. So come this way and let me show you how to make the most fantastic wild rice pilaf you've ever had. Now on this show we are cooking more than one type of rice, and I'm not going to be showing you anything about the other dish over there. You're going to have to watch how to make Mexican rice to see that one. But what you're going to be seeing on this one is how to make a wild rice pilaf, and this is to use brown basmati rice and this wild rice right here. You can also use a white basmati, but you're going to have to cook these in separate pots regardless, because they have different cook times. And we're going to also be using, to make this particular dish, some beef broth, garlic, shallots, lavender, tarragon, and some ground mustard seed. The flavors that we have going into this marry very well together, and it's just going to make a very rich, full-bodied side dish for any kind of hearty meal that you might have. So let's get right on to preparing this wonderful side dish. Now, before we prepare our wild rice pilaf, I want to go ahead and get these shallots taken care of. Now, as with onions and all other things like this, I like to leave that root end intact. The only thing I'm going to take off is going to be the stem end. I'm going to start by taking it off. And then I want to run my knife up the side through those outer layers. And that's just going to help me to peel these back, okay? I can get those outer dry layers. There we go. And if you get a little bit of the fresh shallot, I'll tell you what, try not to lose sleep over that, okay? I certainly will. Now, how you chop this up really doesn't matter, because by the time it gets cooked down into this wild rice, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. There's a little of that paper left there. So what a lot of people do when they're cutting shallots is they will start, let me see if that bottom skin is going to be alright or if it's going to be trouble for me. See there? That would have been trouble. Let's go ahead and take out that outer layer so that paper isn't in our dish. And I'm down to the nice interior squeaky purple portion. Now, a lot of chefs, when they're cutting these, they're going to start by making a couple of cuts sideways through the shallot, just like so. Alright, and then they're going to make some vertical cuts, just like so. And that way, when they cross-cut this, they're going to end up with just a whole bunch of nice little dice, as you can see right there. And that method works just wonderful. If you want to go ahead and use that, that's fine. Or if you want to throw down into this dish just some little shallot rings, like you see there, porcelain rings. Or we can use whole shallot rings. Let's see if I've got any of that skin on this one to contend with. Nope. So I can just have little rings like this down in there, or I can half them, partially cut them, whatever I want to do. Now on mine, I do like to go ahead and just get it right down into nice dice, and that way, as it is cooked, once it's cooked, everything in there that is shallot is going to have a similar appearance to it, and it won't look out of place. It won't look haphazard. Now, if you'll notice, I pulled out some very large shallots. So what I'm looking for here is to have about a half to maybe 3/4 of a cup of shallot when I'm finished. Now again, take my knife, that outer portion. There we go. Sometimes that little skin just likes to fight me. think I'm going to go out with that outer layer too, because it is a bit on the thin side. There we go. Really nice. And some of them will grow in clusters like these have. Sometimes they're a nice little just long oblong shape. One of those times when a little paring knife can come in handy. I also have some rings here. I'm just going to break those down. Okay. Now what I'm doing there is I'm not actually grabbing the blade of my knife. I'm just turning that over like that and lifting my knife up, and it knocks those off. So be careful when you handle knives the way I do, because I'm not actually running it lengthwise on my hand like this. I'm pulling it up and out. So my hand has no real contact with that edge. There we go. I have here right about 3/4 of a cup of chopped shallots. Now it's time for us to prepare our wild rice pilaf. We are going to start with some brown basmati rice. This is a great tasting rice, but it does take it some time to cook. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and toast this rice in this pan. I'm going to turn on my front burner to bring up some heat. I'm also turning on my rear burner. Now to get started on this wild rice, this is the longest cooking rice of the two, so you can just go ahead and get it started. And I have here just slightly over 1 cup of liquid, and this is the only rice that you don't necessarily have to use a 2-to-1 ratio. You can use a little bit more liquid in this than you would in other rices, because at the end we're going to pour off any excess liquid. We're going to boil this for about an hour. So I have there my rice in my beef broth. I want to add just a small amount of salt on that, and I'm putting in there just a little bit of olive oil, about a teaspoon. Now when that comes up to a boil, I'm going to reduce it in temperature, and we're going to lower that to a low temperature, and I'm going to simmer. Now that my heat has come up in this pan just a little bit, I'm going to put in some cooking oil here, just plain cooking oil, and I'm going to put in there about 1.5 tablespoons of oil. I'm going to pour my rice on that. I'm going to get it coated all the way around. Now the same way you would toss in a skillet, do this the same way, or you can use a spoon to stir that. And what I want to do is just toast this lightly. And what I'm doing here when I'm toasting rice is it's just altering the flavor of it. It's bringing out a richer, better flavor, a little more aromatic rice also. So it gives it a good odor, it gives it a good flavor, and it really improves on the total product. Now I'm going to toast this lightly for about 8 to 10 minutes, turning it and flipping it lightly. To do that every minute or so that it does not burn. Now we are still toasting on this. I'm still flipping this about every minute. It's getting some nice, beautiful browning. Back here, my rice has come to a full boil. All I have to do is cover that, reduce to a low heat. I'm going to set my flame as low as I can get it, and I'm just going to let it sit there and simmer for a full hour. Now that has been on there for roughly 8 minutes now. And it's time to go ahead and we're going to pour in our liquid. My timer beeping and talking to me. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my shallots also. And these are going to pretty much just cook down to nothing, but they're just going to add a wonderful light flavor to this whole dish. Now, salt, we want about a teaspoon. There we go. Lavender, the same, about a teaspoon. Now in my lavender here I have a bit of some stems. I'm going to pull those out. There we go. Put that down in. That adds a light, sweet flavor to it. It's very delicate. Mustard. On that one, it's the same thing. We're looking at about 1 teaspoon is what we want right in there. Tarragon. On this one, you can have plenty of tarragon. I'm going to put in a full tablespoon, which would be 3 teaspoons. Now all I need to do, give this a bit of a stir, and the same way we did with the wild rice, we're going to bring this to a boil, and this needs to boil for about 45 to 50 minutes. So both of these are a little bit longer cooking, but as with most rice, they have the same principle. 2 to 1 on your ratio of liquid to rice. 1 part's rice, 2 parts liquid. As soon as that comes to a boil, we're going to cover it, and it's time to let it simmer. As you can see, my rice has now come to a boil. I'm going to put in just a little bit of olive oil, about 1½ teaspoons. Give it a light stir. Cover this. I'm going to reduce my heat to low and allow that to simmer. And it's going to be cooking for a long time, guys, so just give it plenty of time. Be patient with it. It takes time to cook basmati. Now, one retraction I want to make real quick when I said that basmati takes a long time to cook. That has to pertain to brown basmati. Brown basmati takes a long time to cook, a little longer than your average white rice, which takes 25 to 30 minutes usually at the longest. Brown basmati will take 45 minutes on average, sometimes a little longer. Wild rice up to an hour. Now, if you want to cook a basmati rice that cooks quickly, you'll use white basmati. The white basmati will cook in 12 to 15 minutes. Now, there is something I want to mention about cooking rice. Once you get this lid on the pot, don't lift it, don't check it, do not stir it. Leave it alone. That's all you have to do. Low heat, leave it alone, wait for the steam to stop. If you do anything else, you're only going to muck up your rice. So leave it alone, okay? That's how simple rice is. Our brown basmati has now stopped steaming. Well, it's not steaming as much. And if I pull back on the center of the rice, and I notice that there is no water in the bottom of the pot boiling, so I can go ahead and shut off the heat on this, and take my fork and just lightly fluff it. Now we'll get the rest of the ingredients mixed in. Those herbs and the onions and everything will always set up on the top. Now, if you notice how light and fluffy that is, and it's not sticky or anything like that, and you can see some of the grains that were toasted as well as the herbs that are in there, that is just good looking rice. I got to taste this. Oh, that's delicious. Now, while I'm waiting here, this has been cooking for about 43, maybe 44 minutes. This is still on its way. It has been cooking just a few minutes longer, so it has about another 10 to 15 minutes to go on it. Now, the thing about this long grain rice, this is wild rice, like this, it's mostly just the husk on the outside that takes such a long time for it to cook. And you can always taste it, and if it tastes good to you, if the texture's good, you can go ahead and stop your cook. Now, it seems a bit firm to me still. I'm going to let it go on and cook. Our wild rice has been cooking for approximately 1 hour. I open this up, and there's of course still plenty of liquid down in this. And I did start with an additional amount. I had about a 1/4 cup extra, and that was done quite on purpose so that there would be plenty of it for such a long cook, because I didn't want it to all steam out. Now, some of my grains are starting to split just slightly, and that's a good sign that this stuff is really softened up. Now I want to go ahead and pour this into this. However, I don't want all of that moisture being in it. So what I'm going to do is to use the strainer and the sink. So pardon me just one moment. Go. I drained off that excess liquid. I can pour it right down into here. Any excess that sticks behind, I like to just pull out. And here we end up with a wonderful wild rice pilaf with the brown basmati and the wild rice together, and the herbs, and the spice, the shallot. Everything just comes together on this to make an absolutely fantastic rice dish. So there you have it. Simple wild rice pilaf. There it is. Very simple wild rice pilaf. It's not hard to make this wild rice dish, but just remember, when you have rices that cook at different lengths of time, you're either going to have to put the rice one into the pot at a different time than the other, or just simply cook them in separate pots as I did. I think the way I did it's a little bit safer. Enjoy. Now this is so cool. The flavor of the lavender and the flavor of the tarragon, they just marry perfect. That mustard that's in there just sets it off. This is really delicious. Now on this one, I did not add garlic. You can add garlic if you wish. Onion powder. I used the shallot to give us that onion flavor. That is scrumptious. Pardon me. That's really good. I so enjoy a good rice dish when I'm having a nice steak or a good hearty piece of fish. So I tell you what, thank you. Thank you very much for watching this show. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. And please subscribe if you haven't. And for my subscribers, thank you very much for subscribing. And you have a good day. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.